Hello, this is Sasa and welcome to my channel. I make sewing, cooking, and cosplay related videos. This is a sewing tutorial, step by step, on how to make pull-up pants with elastic at the waistband. So depending on the fabric choice, they could be pajama pants or going out pants. I'm using up some leftover fabric to create a patchwork style pants. The fabric is 100% cotton, and this kind of fabric is very easy for beginners since it doesn't move or stretch too much. This part is optional, but if you want to put a pocket on, the style I'm showing is a patch pocket, so pretty much it's just a square that you sew on top of the fabric. For this project, I'll be using my serger. If you don't have a serger, there's plenty of other options that you can use. My pocket size is as big as my scrap fabric will allow me. If I had the choice, I would probably make it a little bit bigger. If you don't have a serger, you can double fold over and hem all 4 edges, and that will hide the raw edges of your pocket. I'm just doing the top only. So I placed the leg fabric to my body to figure out the placement of the pockets, about how high or how low I want it to be. And make sure you don't put it too close to the edges because it might get stuck in the seam allowance. And you can put the pocket either on the front or on the back. I double stitched the pocket down. This makes it extra secure and you won't lose anything. I modified a pants pattern for my body. At the fabric store, there's many different kind of pants patterns that you can get. For the basic type of pants, there's 2 types of patterns. One where there's a seam on the outer side seam and one where there is not. The one where there is not, those pants will be a more baggier look, and the one with the side seam will be a little bit tighter fitting. You can decide what kind of style that you like. So when cutting your fabric, make sure that you get one right leg and one left leg. To make sure of this, you cut with the fabric right sides together. So you want to place the right sides together. So you take the right front leg to the right back leg, and same with the left. So the left front leg to the left back leg. So we're going to sew the outer side seam first. So I pin the outer leg seam together. I'm sewing with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. However, the most standard is 1.5 centimeters. Most American patterns have a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. Seam allowance is the amount of space from the stitching line to the raw edges of the fabric. I use my serger to finish off the raw edges. Ironing and pressing is a very important part of sewing. It can make your work much more professional looking and clean, and it also hangs better on the body. So I ironed the seam flat on one side and then I do it the other side. And then I press the seam towards the back and iron that down. And lastly, I go to the front side and I iron that part flat. So the next part is optional. It's called top stitching. So what that is sewing on top of the right side. So this catches the seam allowance and to the main fabric. It keeps it more flat. It gives it more added durability, and it can be for a fashion look as well. So once again, I iron both sides of the fabric. If you want to have a patch pocket on the side of your leg, you can do that now, and it would go over the side seam. So now you fold the leg in half, and we're going to pin the inner leg seam. We're going to sew the inner leg seam the same way as the outer leg seam. The only difference is that I will not be top stitching the inner leg seam. So now to sew the 2 legs together, you want to have one pant leg right side out and the other one with the wrong side out. So you take the right side out leg and you're going to stick it inside the other one. This should create both the right sides of the fabric together. So this is really important. You're going to start by pinning from the center crotch and make sure that the seams line up. And then you're going to go outwards pinning. So now we're going to sew this U shape. When you get to the crotch seam, try and get the seam allowances to go in the opposite direction. That way it will be less bulky. When I ironed it, I already placed them in opposite directions so that when I sew it, it's already aligned up. I do recommend top stitching the crotch seam, and if you want, you can even sew it twice so you have 2 rows of stitching. Since the U part is not flat, be careful when you're top stitching that you don't catch something underneath. I check by lifting it up and feeling that it's flat with my hands. If your fabric frays easier, it's better to finish off the top edge. To measure the length of the elastic, you take a piece around your waist or wherever you plan to wear your pants, and you pull it tight enough, but not too tight until it's comfortable. And you want to cut it a little bit longer so that you can have the overlap of when you sew the elastic together. I don't always iron this part. Sometimes I just fold it by hand and then I sew because my hands are able to keep it in place. But it's much easier if you iron it. So you iron over one time to hide the raw edges, and then using your elastic as a guide, you fold over again and make sure it's a little bit bigger than your elastic so that it has space to fit through. To mark the back of the pants so that it's easy to find which way to put them on, I take a piece of ribbon, I fold it in half, and I place it at the back seam. So then you go around and you sew the casing for the elastic. So a casing is just like a tube or a tunnel that the elastic goes through. And make sure you don't seal off the opening because you need a place to put the elastic in. With the help of a large safety pin, you're going to thread the elastic through. And sometimes when you're threading, you'll lose the other end of the elastic. So I put a clip on the other end so that it doesn't go through. So once I make it out to the other end, I check that the elastic is not twisted because it will be a bit uncomfortable. And then I overlap the 2 elastic pieces and I use a sewing machine and I go over I make an X or a square to secure it in place. So to find the back seam of any pants, you take from the crotch where it joins, and then you slide your hand up and fold it, and the back side is always the longer side. Try on the pants first before you sew the opening shut of the elastic because you may need to do some adjustments. So for the leg hem, I fold over once and then twice to hide the raw edges. I'm able to do this in one shot without ironing, but you can iron it first if it helps you. So lastly, I iron the leg cuff. Another option that you can do is to put elastic on the leg cuff. You would sew it in the same way as the waistband top. If you do this option, you may need to make the pants longer. If my videos and tutorials helped you create something, please tag me. I would love to see your work. Please check out my channel for playlists on cooking, sewing, cosplay, and other tutorials. You can support me by buying me an online coffee, which is a donation of increments by $3, or you can buy anything from my Etsy shop. It's all handmade by me. I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I hope you have fun with your projects. Bye bye!